All right, I told you guys on the show yesterday that my favorite thing as part of this new political era that we're in is that billionaire robber barons have truly convinced themselves that they're popular, that they're special, that they're geniuses, that they're just the hardest working. They naturally rose to the top of the meritocracy. This is what they think of themselves, but they also think that you think that about them. That you love these billionaires and you see them, oh, inspiring. They just worked harder than us. They're just smarter than us. So they really view themselves as philosopher kings, but they also think you want and love them as philosopher kings. And as a direct result of that, they're out over their skis. You got this idiot Mark Andreessen, venture capitalist snake, who went on Joe Rogan's show, by the way, and played footsie with him, Mr. Man of the People, Joe Rogan. And what did he do when he was on there? He just flat out lied. He talked about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. He lied. He said this is Elizabeth Warren's personal agency. It's not. That's not true. It was her idea to begin with, but it's not her personal agency. He said that this agency debanks conservatives. That's not true. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has fought against debanking. Not only that, their whole existence is to stop big financial institutions from scamming you. Literally, that's the whole point. They stop these big financial institutions from committing fraud. They've returned $17.5 billion to Americans who were defrauded, by the way, including me. I've told that story before. I got a check in the mail from the CFPB because I was robbed by a big financial institution. Okay? So he's just a liar. Why does he want to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? Because he wants to scam people. Because he's a con artist. Don't believe me? Go read into his past and you'll see very quickly that what I'm saying is exactly right. So he goes on Rogan's show. He says all this stuff. Rogan's like, bro, really, bro? That's crazy, bro. Here, talk to my audience of fucking 10 million people and lie to them relentlessly as I sit here and play patty cakes with you, bro. So anyway, he still thinks, oh, I'm killing it. I'm killing it going on this tour and saying the shit I'm saying and preaching my robber baron worldview where I should have all the money and the power and you get to be a little fucking peon underneath me. So he goes on the Modern Wisdom podcast. And again, he says the quiet part out loud. He overreaches. He goes too far. He lets the mask slip. Here's not only his agenda, but the agenda of Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and Donald Trump. This is what they're coming to do. Watch.
The other lens on this that I think about a lot is Curtis Yarvin, who's also a good friend of mine. And the way he describes the American system that's running the people, the way he describes it is we are living under FDR's personal monarchy 80 years later without FDR. Right. And the reason he describes it, he says, look, when before FDR, the federal government was actually very small. Like the tax rates were like super low. The federal government didn't do very much. The FDR dramatically, by orders of magnitude increased the size and scope of the federal government.
Why don't you get into why he did that? Any thoughts on why he did that? Or are you going to lie and hide that? Are you going to hide that fact from people? It was this little thing called the Great Depression. And he became one of the most beloved presidents in American history who was elected 4 times to the office of presidency of the president. This is before we had term limits. He won 4 times. He held 80% of the House and 80% of the Senate at his peak, respectively. Why did he win in such a dominating fashion? Why did he win 4 times? Why did he expand the size of government? Oh, that's right. We were in a robber baron era. We had the Great Depression. And he needed to do redistribution to take money away from the robber barons, tax them, and give people jobs, and give people support from their government, a social safety net. A social safety net. He's literally going to make an argument here against Social Security. He's going to make an argument against it.
That for 2 reasons. One was the New Deal, and then the other was World War II. And so the federal government that Franklin Roosevelt left behind in 1945 when he passed away was the government that he had built, which he had run the entire time from 1933 to 1945 himself, in which he had staffed himself and he had overseen himself and everything. And he built this giant structure. And as Curtis basically says, as long as you had FDR running that, it could run really well. And, we won World War II and saved the free world and it worked and pulled the U.S. out of depression, like the whole thing worked.
Oh, he admits it worked. Interesting. He admits it worked. But he says, oh, the only reason it worked is because it was FDR that was running it. That's why it was so... Really? So Social Security, in other words, giving grandma a check so she doesn't starve in the street, that can only work if FDR is president? Well, we know that's not true because we still have Social Security, and it's one of the most popular government programs we have, if not the most popular. And guys, you ready for this? It reduced the senior poverty rate from over 30% to under 10%. So it works with FDR, without FDR. It works on a goat. It works in a moat. It works, period. But he's going to lie about it. Here we go.
It was great. But if you let an organization of that size and scope run without its founder CEO for 80 years, you end up with what we have now, which is just like basically an out-of-control bureaucracy, like an out-of-control system.
Oh, is it really out of control? Well, get rid of Social Security, get rid of Medicare and Medicaid, get rid of all the social safety net, and let me know how that works out for you. Let me know how that works out for you. I hope you like pitchforks up your ass.
That size and scope run without its founder CEO for 80 years, you end up with what we have now, which is just like basically an out-of-control bureaucracy, like an out-of-control system in which people can't even make positive change even if they want to.
That was the positive change, number one. Number two, what is this white thing on your lip? Jesus Christ. What kind of ancient, medieval, bubonic plague-ass disease do you have? Jesus, what is that?
That's why you could have, in the U.S., you could have reason for optimism, which is, okay, what do you need? Well, you need another FDR-like figure, but in reverse.
You need an FDR-like figure, but in reverse. Yeah, we had one. His name was Ronald Reagan. Then we had another one. His name was George W. Bush. Then we had another one. In fact, every president in the modern era has been one flavor or another of a neoliberal, so not a social democrat, not a New Deal Democrat, and Biden was the only one who broke with that even a little bit. Biden was the only one, but he's making clear, my goal is to get rid of the whole social safety net.
You need somebody and a team of people around them who's actually willing to come in and like take the thing by the throat and make the changes. By the way, make the changes that FDR would probably make if he were here to make them, but he's not.
He's arguing FDR, if he were around now, would get rid of Social Security. That's what he's arguing. Just like his Consumer Financial Protection Bureau take, this is a shameless lie. It is utterly made up. Why? Because he's a robber baron billionaire oligarch who wants to control the reins of power, give himself all the money, and cut off all the support for regular working Americans.
Else has to step up and do that. It has to be a president because nobody else conceivably has the power to do that. But, you know, we will see how much this president can do. But like that's a lot of what this administration plans to do.
So there you go. His goal is the anti-New Deal. He wants to kill off what remains of the New Deal. He probably wants to kill off what remains of the Great Society. Get rid of Social Security, get rid of Medicare, get rid of Medicaid, get rid of WIC, get rid of SNAP, the food stamp program, get rid of home heating assistance, get rid of anything and everything that helps regular people. And then, by the way, as I've said a million times, they're not going to cut the Pentagon. They virtue signal like they will. They're not going to cut the Pentagon. They're going to increase the Pentagon budget while cutting the entire social safety net. He's open and honest about this. He's upfront about it. That's wild, dog. That's wild. You are begging for a revolution. You are begging for people to despise you. Now, by the way, early on in this clip, he mentioned a guy named Curtis Yarvin, who's this philosopher that this guy looks up to. And by the way, you know who else looks up to him? J.D. Vance. You know who else looks up to him? Peter Thiel. So in other words, all of these tech billionaire bros, these tech crypto assholes, they've now snuggled up next to Trump. They're close to power. They gave him a lot of money for his campaign. They're going to get to help make decisions as to the future of this country. And who is this guy that they say is their ideological thought leader? Curtis Yarvin. Well, we've talked about him in the past. Listen to this. Curtis Yarvin, also known by the pen name Mencius Moldbug, is an American blogger. He is known, along with philosopher Nick Land, for founding the anti-egalitarian and anti-democratic, small d democratic, philosophical movement known as the Dark Enlightenment or neo-reactionary movement. He argues that American democracy is a failed experiment that should be replaced by, I love this, an accountable monarchy. Talk about a contradiction in terms. Similar to the governance structure of corporations. Yarvin has been described as a neo-reactionary or neo-monarchist who sees liberalism as creating a matrix-like totalitarian system and who wants to replace American democracy with a sort of techno-monarchy. All right, let me give you more on this guy because you need to know what the core of their ideology is. Yarvin believes that real political power in the U.S. is held by something he calls the cathedral, an informal amalgam of universities and the mainstream press, which collude to sway public opinion. That's incredible. So he leaves out capital. He leaves out big money donors. He says it's just universities and the mainstream press. According to him, a so-called Brahmin social class dominates American society, preaching progressive values to the masses. The socio-religious analogy originates from Yarvin's opinion that the progressive ideology of the cathedral is delivered to and internalized by the general population, much in the same way religious dogma is delivered by religious authorities and institutions to fanatical worshippers. Then, now let me show you this part. Yarvin argues for a neo-cameralist philosophy. In Yarvin's view, democratic governments are inefficient and wasteful and should be replaced with sovereign joint stock corporations whose shareholders, the large owners, elect an executive with total power, but who must serve at their pleasure. The executive, unencumbered by liberal democratic procedures, so no checks and balances, could rule efficiently, much like a CEO monarch. Yarvin admires Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping for his pragmatic and market-oriented authoritarianism. Pragmatic and market-oriented authoritarianism. They go on to say Yarvin supports authoritarianism on right libertarian grounds, claiming that the division of political sovereignty expands the scope of the state, whereas strong governments with clear hierarchies remain minimal and narrowly focused. So in other words, let me break this down for you into layman's terms. He wants the United States to be divvied up into little portions, and each portion is run by basically a tech CEO overlord who has full and total control. And then these like corporation type states get to be full authoritarian and tell you anything and everything about your life, right? So you have totally unregulated, unfettered, basically anarcho-capitalism. You have a CEO monarch at the top who's going to be like a tech bro, crypto type CEO. And they can control everything about your private life because they're authoritarian. So that, they can say, we're going to ban porn, for example, right? A lot of these people involved in this, like J.D. Vance, he's a trad cath, right? So he's a Catholic convert as he got older. And these people, of course, they want to ban abortion completely. They want to ban pornography and things of that nature. So imagine these like tech feudal corporate systems around the country, these little pockets where you have a CEO monarch who gets to control everything. No checks and balances, no democracy. And that's the system. And this guy, Andreessen, is a follower of Curtis Yarvin. And he's telling you up front here, yeah, get rid of Social Security. I'm sure he'd say get rid of the society, Medicare and Medicaid, get rid of the entire social safety net. And then give me and my friends, tech asshole CEO robber barons, give us total control. And this is their goal. This is what they're working towards. So forget voting, forget free speech, forget social freedoms, authoritarian CEO monarch in a corporate feudalist structure where they get to call all the shots. And again, I want to reiterate this. Andreessen is going around and giving interviews about the way he thinks we can fix the country. This is appealing to nobody except these tech asshole bros. Appealing to nobody. But hey, they have power now. Buckle up, man. They have power. We are at the whim of Donald Trump to reject these people with their most extreme instincts. Trump was smart enough when he ran to say, I'm not going to cut your Social Security. I'm not going to cut your Medicare. Everybody around him wants to do that. Everybody around him is going to convince him to try to do that. Right? Dismantle the remnants of the New Deal. Dismantle the whole social safety net. And by the way, let these guys run out the back door with all the money because they're robber barons and they say they like anarcho-capitalism and libertarianism, but if the government gets to give them corporate welfare and subsidies, they'll take it in a second, just like Elon Musk. And so it's a worst of all worlds, and there's no doubt about it. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.